You've been driving for a while and you feel like you've hit a plateau and you're just not improving anymore. You've upgraded your hardware, but you're still not able to be as fast as you would like. Well, guess what? I did that too, okay? I'm as guilty as you are. And that's exactly why Racine and myself created what we call the advanced way to learn. By using the techniques that we're about to show you, we were able to win national championships, and we're now coaching real-life drivers and sim racers all across the globe. So let me tell you why you absolutely need this to improve your racing skills. On this platform, you'll go through 5 learning steps. The first one is going to be to watch video lessons so you can take in all that theory. The second step will be to answer quizzes. We've created some questions to test your knowledge. Next, you'll have to partake in challenges. Here, you'll have to prove to yourself that you can apply what you've learned. You'll go on track and you'll try to beat the instructor's lap times or sector times. Following the challenge, you'll be able to send your onboard replay so instructors and other community members can help you improve. And lastly, you can get involved in the community to meet some new teammates and learn from others. This platform is a back and forth discussion between us, the instructor, and you, the students. If you're serious about becoming the best driver out there, this is the advanced way to learn.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
The LMP3 GT4 Challenge has served up pretty much everything so far in Season 4 of 2024 here in the PRL. What could we possibly have to spice up the championship further with only 2 rounds left to go? Well, we're in Portugal, a usually sunny country, but you can see on your screens it is getting a little bit damp. A wet Algarve is where we find ourselves for the penultimate round of a championship which has seen so many twists and so many turns, and we're delighted to have your company here on RaceSpotTV. My name is Darren Thacker, joined as always in the commentary box by Reese Gardner and Reese. Portimao in the wet, differing lines, elevation changes. As a penultimate race of the championship, this could really shake things up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The drivers' championships are both very close in our classes, and we come, of course, to a track where a few drivers will be rising well above the rest. This is going to be a fantastic round of the championship. We've run the gamut of circuits over the course of this season. We started off at Indianapolis all the way back in September, and we've gone across racetracks in the Northern Hemisphere, going to Asia, and spending the majority of our time in Europe with a couple of detours to the USA. But we finish back in Europe again here at Algarve before we go to the Red Bull Ring for the final round.
Yeah, and looking forward to that in 1 week's time. But this is how we sit coming into this penultimate round, and it couldn't really get much closer than this. Borazan Lavando leads his teammate Michael Diaz by just 6 points, a championship which has tightened slightly after last week's dramatic race at Hockenheim. Mobin Khan is sitting in third and looking to try and consolidate that tonight, as he only has a 2-point advantage over Zach Hebert, a driver with incredible consistency, and has shown that so far this season. P5 and P6 currently occupied by Fernando Rodriguez and Christian Garrett Tom, but there's only 1 point between them, with Stephen Lakota and Lucas Wallace joining that battle to get inside the top 5. We'll see who can get a bit of a march here this evening. Nikos Sanidakis is 9th, Daniel Oliver rounds out our top 10, but still a very tight championship, pretty much all the way down. Over in the teams, it's Solpac Precision Racing with their drivers first and second, who have a commanding advantage over Speed Squad, well over 100, well, it's 177 points of an advantage. Then there's a big gap back to Grant's Garage, but they're tied with Echelon Simsport LMP3. We'll see who can try and get themselves higher up into P3 this evening. Why not P1 Scuderia Dunkasor LMP3 are looking to try and get themselves into that conversation, with Sim Total Racers looking to keep themselves looking for a top 5. Drive Trainer Motorsports, Championship Racing Collective, Fenton Brothers Racing and Maradness M Squad are the top 10 teams in our LMP3s. Over in the GT4s, it gets a little bit tighter than the LMP3s. Aaron Mize and Aiden Young, 1 point between them. It's going to be an absolutely gargantuan tussle in these final 2 rounds. We'll see who can lead the championship into next week. Matthew Wyckoff, Aaron Mize's teammate, is 3rd in the championship ahead of Terrafino, who is safely in 4th. Kalen Tobin and Cade Smith, same points, are in 5th and in 6th, with Tristan Cadet and Jerry Manella, along with Gabriel Gignac and Kurt Ham, in a bit of a hunt to try and get themselves into the top 5. It's Chasing the Delta who lead the way in the GT4s with their drivers 1st and 3rd. Team Beef are 119 points back. It's going to be pretty much impossible for them to catch, but they're going to try and consolidate P2 ahead of Vision Esports. Fiercely Forward, GT4 and Valhalla Motorsports are 4th and 5th, with JDL Esports and Middle of the Pack Racing in 6th and in 7th. They are all looking for P4. Hyperion Racing, Hamster Racing and No Team round out our top 10 in a very packed GT4 teams standings. But before we get into any kind of qualifying action, which I'm sure is going to be absolutely thrilling, we have to, of course, thank our sponsors who make these broadcasts possible. Firstly, to Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Buttkicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every single game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself into the driver's seat with Buttkicker. Maradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Marad. Mr. Hedge Sim Racing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby and up to 8K resolution. It is, of course, a great addition to any sim room. And Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on all of their socials to become a better driver. And of course, we thank all of those sponsors who make PRL 5 nights a week here on RaceSpotTV possible to bring you all. Of course, Monday night action. It's the LMP3 GT4 Challenge. And it has been a challenge this season, Reece. It's been fair to say. Not just for the drivers, but for us to commentate on as well. It's been such an enthralling battle in both championships. It really is going to come down to the wire, though.
Yeah, absolutely is. Only 2 rounds left to go, and the Drivers' Championships in both classes are crazy close, and we've got rain to throw into the mix to spice things up here with half of our 10-minute 4-lap qualifying session run and done so far. Ovando, championship leader in the LMP3 class, on pole position there, and Aiden Young currently only a point behind Aaron Myers. They are inverted 1 and 2 at the top of GT4. There's a lot of gap between them though right now. Myers will be looking for some improvements there. Aiden Young, keep a very close eye on him in that fiercely forward Mercedes this race. He loves driving in the wet, and he said so every time we've talked to him, so definitely keep an eye out for him. Matthew Wyckoff here is Aaron Myers' teammate, and he's looking to try and negotiate the puddles around this track. Basically, the way the wetness is going to go over the course of this race is the lowest chance of precipitation is 97%. We're going to be raining all the way through here, I'm calling, and so this is good practice here for Wyckoff as he avoids the apex and the inside puddles around here.
Yeah, and I think we have to cast our minds back to Manny Core, where there was a little precipitation, a little bit of precipitation there as well, and Eric Fenson dealt with it majestically, and that's probably why we're seeing him up into P2, make that P3, make that P4, as Mobin Khan and Michael Diaz set improved lap times. All of the LMP3s really coming across the line at the moment. It is Boris Nigel Ovando who currently is taking the point for pole. Michael Diaz, his championship rival, languishing down in 4th for the time being. We'll see if that changes. In the GT4s, though, look at that gap for Aiden Young. Aaron Myers with a lot of work to do. That gap now up to 2.2 seconds. That's a huge margin.
Yeah, it's pretty massive. Myers is making his way out of the final corner, though. We're going to see if he'll be able to improve. He's lapping with Matthew Wyckoff at this stage. Wyckoff's first lap, a 2:11.0 there, with Aaron Myers then setting a 2:07.3. That is an improvement on his lap time, but it's not enough to get him closer to Aiden Young. So this is going to be a very good round for Aiden if he can get that down. Mobin Khan improving to P2 in the last few moments, and we can always count on Mobin here to put down a good lap in qualifying. His race results haven't always reflected his pace though, so I'm certainly hoping he'll be able to survive this and get some good points on board for the final round.
Yeah, let's see if he can consolidate that P3. I was talking about it when we were going through the standings, but he has been in such a good tussle for that P3 in the championship with Zach Hebert, who has just been Mr. Consistent, not quite getting those headline results, but always picking up some big points, and that is why he is so competitive week in and week out. And we'll see if Mobin Khan can gain a bit of a march in the championship. He had, like you said, he's had these good performances in qualifying. He's not necessarily been able to convert that to the race. In the wet, we've seen him not necessarily struggle any more than he has in the dry. But do you think it could add an extra conundrum for the drivers as to where to go on the strategy, how to manage the traffic? How do you think it's going to change it for these guys?
Well, I've seen some talk in the series Discord about how they're going to negotiate it. Basically, one of the big factors is the LMP3s, as Eric Fenson goes to P3 in that class. The LMP3s don't have anti-lock brake systems. The GT4 cars do, so there's a bit of an advantage there for the GT4s in wet conditions. They'll be able to slow down nicely for the corners. The LMP3s have to be more ginger on the brakes, more careful, and so you're probably going to be seeing a little more care from the LMP3s in getting past. I don't think you'll be seeing any huge dives, and if you do, it'll be an out-and-out mistake from the LMP3 driver because they're going to really struggle to slow down. Once the first set of lappers comes around, we'll probably see some chaos, but I'm always sitting here, my fingers crossed, hoping that we'll have a clean pass-through of the LMP3s.
Of course, the rain being a great leveler, if you look at those pole times, the gap is only 9 seconds in change between the LMP3s and the GT4s. I mean, we're not going to be seeing much lapping going on this evening compared to other racetracks that we've been to so far, so it's not going to be as much of a prevalent issue. But when it does come to that lapping, it's going to be interesting just to see who can negotiate it the best at a circuit with lots of differing lines, lots of different parts of the circuit that can be helpful for grip. I'm thinking particularly in that middle sector up at the top of the hill at turn 10. There's about 4 different lines you can use to get through that part of the racetrack in the fastest possible way, particularly in these wet weather conditions. Michael Diaz, though, coming to the line in his number 17 LMP3, challenging for the championship, of course. His teammate's gone even faster for a 54.555. Diaz, though, goes P3 at the end of the session. And even though he's 8/10 back, he's only going to be 1 position down on his teammate. He will have lost an extra point as well, which may be a concern. Either way, it's going to be a close one as we get going here at the Algarve International Circuit, which is, I presume, the translation from what you just saw on the podium. This is the pole up, though, from Bryce Lavanda, the 222. He's been such a consistent driver so far this season, but this is only his 3rd pole of the year.
Yeah, indeed. He's definitely had a lot better luck in the races than he has in qualifying. These pole laps are going to be wild. I mean, you know, the windscreen of the LMP3 is already quite small, and you see that the windscreen wiper barely covers any of it. And notice also the sheer puddles at the apexes of a lot of these corners, and Ovando trying to weave between them. That's the problem, though. The fastest line goes right through a couple of those puddles, so you need to be very careful to keep the car nice and stable here. You'll see him go middle of the track here through the hairpin, a little bit of a puddle there. That's going to certainly be a factor when they get through on lap 1. You know, having the track all to yourself is one thing. When you've got cars side by side with you, it's going to be even harder to avoid those massive wet patches. But going up the hill, there's a fair amount of grippy racetrack there. But what I have noticed is cars going super wide through this section here. Ovando not even thinking about touching the apex coming through the dip.
And you could just see all of these apexes, shiny parts of the circuit where it's not going to be too nice to be able to touch, particularly through here. You can see a little bit of a puddle in the middle of turn 12, a horrible spot to find yourself meeting a puddle. Turn 13, again in the middle of the corner. It's just not nice. I will correct what I said before. It's his 3rd pole of the year, of course. I believe he has more than that. It's his 3rd pole of the campaign, this particular campaign, in the 8 races. Mobin Khan also has 3, so he's tied Khan for that record. Through the final corner, through turn 15, and this is going to be a treacherous part of the racetrack. You'd usually put as much power as you can down there, but in the wet, the rear is going to be wanting to go around all the way around the corner. And you're rotating the car for a good, 6, 7, 8 seconds, particularly, and even a bit longer, I should say, in these GT4s, but Aiden Young gets pole. He closes the championship margin to 0. So we're going to go into this race tied on points. Let's see how he negotiates this in his GT4 into a tricky turn 1 where you can see soaring at the steering wheel already in, one of the, you'd say, easier corners to get it turned into.
Yes, I think the middle sector is going to be tough. Did you see that? How he just pounced on the power there to get the rear rotated coming through turn 3, and he's working the rear end all the way through turn 4. Aiden Young loves wet conditions, and it's really showing on this lap. And the ABS will be activated 100% coming into hairpins like this. For now, he's drifting that car around every corner. Very precise control from our new joint championship leader with that single point for pole position. How does the middle sector work out here for Aiden Young? He's running pretty much the same lines that we saw Ovando running on his lap, but there could be a few differences here coming through the dip and up the hill.
Yeah, through turn 9, we're about to go, or 9, and then into 10 and 11. Of course, these corners all flow into each other. Where does Aiden Young go? So tight on the first apex, running it out a little bit wider, but getting it turned in to stay well off that exit curve. In the dry, you'd see drivers climbing all over that curve, but here in the wet, Aiden Young deciding that that is something he wants to avoid. And again, into turn 13, this will have been a choice to go very wide into the corner and avoid that big wet patch that we saw Boris Lavando drive straight through. Turn 14, he's keeping it nice and close to the apex. I presume well off the exit curb. Let's see. Or no, he's happy to go towards that exit curb at turn 15. This is really the biggest and biggest corner. It's the most important corner on the lap. You got to get a good exit out of here to have it go down towards turn 1. But it could be a make or break corner, making the move or losing the rear end and seeing yourself spinning into a position where it's going to be difficult to recover from. So they are the 2 pole laps, and this is what it leads us to. Boris Lavando is on pole in the LMP3s for the penultimate round of the season. He's ahead of Mobin Khan and his teammate and championship rival Michael Diaz. Eric Fenton is in P4, another good result for him in some wet conditions, and he's on row 2 ahead of Daniel Zegers and Stephen Lakota, who make up row number 3. Fernando Rodriguez and Daniel Oliver are on row 4 with Mr. Consistency Zach Hebert and Christian Garreton 9th and 10th on row 5. It'll be Lando Tager, the 11th and final driver in the LMP3s. In the GT4s, it's Aiden Young who takes pole position, and you've got to try and find Aaron Myers because Jeremy Rogers is alongside Young on the front row. Tristan Cadet and Cade Smith are on row 2. Kalen Tobin is 5th. Aaron Myers down in 6th. A lot of work to do. Wyckoff is in 7th ahead of Roy Brown. Michael Terrafino and Roman Foe on row 5 with Lambert Jesse and Jeremy Manella on row number 6. We roll on to see Justin Bragg and Robert McGee and Travis Pruitt and Kurt Ham on row 7 and 8, with the field reared up by Matt Benson in P17, bringing our total number of cars tonight to 28. Still going to be a busy field, no doubt about that. 11 LMP3s, 17 GT4s as they're gridding up. We're going to be absolutely graced with a full lap behind the pace car before we can get going. But it's going to give a lot of time for the drivers to try and judge the conditions, albeit, Reese, at a speed that they're not really going to be looking to go at for the rest of the race.
Yeah, very difficult to ultimately judge the grip until you're up to speed coming into turn 1. So looking at the weather radar on my end, the rain has been patchy all the way through the practice session. We've seen some blotches of heavy rain fall from time to time, but it's mostly looking like leopard spots on the radar. There's a short break in the rain that is just about to come across the circuit, but that's not going to be anywhere near enough time for any sort of dry line to form. This race is going to be wet the whole way through. Up behind here, the duo of Aaron Myers and Matthew Wyckoff, who end up starting quite a bit further down the field than they would ideally have wanted. And Tristan Cadet, you'll notice, is not in a BMW for this round. He's in a Mercedes, according to him. Apparently, the BMW was not selectable on his entry to the session, so he will get a 20-point penalty for switching cars, which is obviously not ideal for his stake in the championship, but I'm sure that he'll enjoy this regardless. The Mercedes, judging from Aiden Young and the likes laps, is a good car to have in these conditions.
Yeah, keeping it under control seems like the strong points of that car, and why so many drivers chose it towards the start of the season. We're getting towards the hairpin now. There's still a long way to go on our formation lap before we can get racing here. Quick note about the weather generally here in Portugal for any Americans who maybe aren't too familiar with European geography. Portugal right on the Atlantic coast. It's to the south of Europe as well, which means generally it is a very warm, dry country, but when storms do roll off the Atlantic, it can get quite wet here. So these conditions aren't too surprising at this time of year over in Europe, but even so, it is conditions that can be tricky and aren't often seen when summer series come here through, May through September. So Algarve, not a circuit that's used to having rain necessarily due to when it's normally used, but at the same time, a great circuit to have it on because of the undulation, because of the camber. It really is such a special circuit in that regard, and there's not really much else like it around the world, is there?
No, certainly not. It's one of the rare examples of a modern Grand Prix style venue that follows the terrain 100% and has used that to create a fantastic layout. This track opened in 2008, I believe, and was FIA Grade 1 pretty much from the get-go. Took a long time for it to actually host a Grand Prix and had to wait for the pandemic for that to happen, but it was a fantastic site regardless. It's a beautiful circuit, old school in many forms of the word, but still with all the amenities and runoff areas of a Grand Prix venue. Let's see how many drivers are going to be making use of those tarmac runoffs when we get to the green flag.
I believe if I double-checked the Southpaw Racing tier list video recently, I think you enjoyed this track, if memory serves. So
yes.
there's always that as well. But you're right, we're coming around the final corner. LMP3's getting in position, ready to get going. You'll see the pace car leave the track to the pit lane, which is a bit of a weird one here in Portimao. But we are ready to get going for 1 hour. It's the penultimate round of a championship that has had twists and turns. It's gone left, it's gone right. We are in the rain here in Portugal, and we're racing. The green flag drops here as we have 1 hour on the clock. A couple of drivers ducking out of line early to try and make moves in the LMP3s. The GT4s rise over the crest, and they'll make their way down towards turn 1 as the LMP3s get to the apex. A couple are going too wide, but it's Mobin Khan losing a position off the start, not the start that he was looking for at all. Here are the GT4s though, 4 wide in turn number 1. This is not what you want to be seeing if you're Aaron Myers. He's somehow going to pick his way through. I think he's going to end up going from 6th to 3rd in turn 1. Incredible start for him.
Oh, and Kalen Tobin spinning around in the midfield in the Aston Martin. He's going to roll off the circuit and to the back of the field as the GT4s make their way through turns 3 and 4. The LMP3s are already at the hairpin, one of the slowest corners on the track. You're right, that was a great run from Aaron Myers, and that 4 wide moment in turn 1 saw Jeremy Rogers forced wide in the bright green and black McLaren. He's currently managed to recover to 4th, but we'll see what Aaron Myers will be able to do to catch up to Aiden Young from here. He's been gifted a massive leg up here on lap 1.
Yeah, this has been a really, really good start for Aiden Young, but Aaron Myers as well, getting up to the P3, crucial for his race, needs a couple more spots. You'd think, well, needs to get past Kate Smith quickly, and a couple more spots to be the lead of the race, of course. But to get through on Kate Smith would be really critical early on here, and would allow him to apply some pressure to his championship rival. For Ovando, I don't think he'll be terribly pleased that Diaz has been able to get his way up the order from 4th to 2nd. And here's Daniel Zegers looking to make a move on Eric Fenson as they work their way in towards the penultimate corner. Mobin Khan taking a bit of a wide line on entry, going to get a much better exit than Eric Fenson, and Daniel Zegers will have seen that, may have gone for a run, but so tricky on acceleration. It's only lap 1, we're already seeing drivers struggling in these tricky acceleration zones.
Yeah, indeed. It's one of those corners where you need to run in the wheel tracks of the car ahead. The spray being thrown up and water being removed from the line the cars are driving. It'll get you some extra grip if you play your cards right, but Zegers has to peek out from behind the spray in order to try and find his way into the corners there. Hebert, meanwhile, up 2 spots. He's just gotten past Stephen Licota there and up into 7th place. Licota looking for something more here in the opening laps. He's the biggest loser in the LMP3 field at the moment, down 2 spots. Biggest loser in the GT4s being Kalen Tobin, who's now down to 15th after his spin coming out of turn 2. And oh, there we go, Eric Fenson getting past Mobin Khan for 3rd, but I don't know if there's damage on those cars now. It was ever so brief there for Fenson, and Zegers stands a chance to find a way through. A little bit of contact on the exit of the hairpin, resulting in a very intense battle.
Yeah, and an opportunistic move up the inside of turn 8 there it was for Daniel Zegers. Not going to work out in the end for the number 8 machine, but tried a bit of an up and under as Eric Fenson was all out of shape going into turn number 7. Again, Fenson taking a wider line. Going to open the door. Yeah, you can get a good exit. Oh, Daniel Zegers absolutely, well, I mean, he walked straight into the door. He's walked into the door, and he's made contact with Eric Fenson, but they'll still go side by side through the left-hander at 12, in towards turn 13. How can they make their way through? Fenson a little bit deep. Is the exit going to work out for Zegers? Let's see, because Fenson is going to be back on the inside line coming into this penultimate turn. Through they go. Who can get the better exit? Zegers trying to walk his way around the outside. He'd be a brave man to do that, and even brave man to go around the outside at turn 15. Little bit of contact. They managed to keep it outside of each other, and outside of going into the wall contact. This is getting tetchy, but they're going to cross the line with Zegers still behind Fenson.
Yeah, it's getting physical in the LMP3s, and these cars are quite fragile, so they better get themselves under control here. Zegers going to try at the inside of turn 1. Fenson will see him coming and let him go into the first turn, but you can see that Fenson is setting up his car perfectly to fight back here. It's a really good view for Fernando Rodriguez, who's catching up to these guys, and Fenson ends up biffing Zegers out of the way there at turn 3. No damage, it looks like, for either car, but everyone behind them has really benefited from that. Running side by side around a track like this, it gives you a massive disadvantage. Now there's a battle stretching all the way from 5th to 9th in LMP3.
A bit of an uppercut there, wasn't it, from Fenson on Daniel Zegers as they made their way through turn 3. Difficult to really see how far back Fenson was into the corner or whether Zegers cut him off, but either way, Fenson still holds on to P4. They've lost a chunk of time to Mobin Khan. Everyone really has therefore then lost a big chunk of time to Michael Diaz and Bryce Lavando, and Diaz with the fastest lap is going to be looking to put a little bit of pressure onto his teammate. This is what happened off the start in the GT4s. There's Kalen Tobin getting tapped around. Didn't really look like there was anything that he could do in the middle of the pack there in the GT4s. Let's see it here. Oh, he comes across the front a little bit, but with so many cars in close proximity, you'd have to put that on as a racing incident, surely.
Yeah, I get the feeling that was Jeremy Manella who hit him there. Meanwhile, the two Mercedes of Bragan and I believe Kurt Ham as well going off there. And where was that? That was coming through the dip. Oh, it was Roy Brown who was the second car involved there. My apologies. Kurt Ham, of course, driving the McLaren, and it was contact for Kurt Ham. Looked like Lambert Jesse there making slight contact with his rear, but coming through a fast corner in wet conditions, any contact is going to send you off there.
Yeah, very interesting to see a bit of synchronized spinning in the opening couple of laps. We'll have to see if any of that will be reciprocated throughout the rest of the race. Here's the battle for P5 in the GT4s. Romain Faux and Michael Terrafino fighting it out for the time being. Faux with a lot of work to do to catch up to Aaron Myers, but I do believe he's just made the move to get through on Michael Terrafino, who is proving to be a little bit of a cork in the bottle at the moment. Terrafino going to come under pressure from drivers behind. Tristan Cadet, Jeremy Manella right on his tail. Matthew Wyckoff as well, trying to support his teammate Aaron Myers. For the time being, he's stuck in a train where he knows he needs to get through pretty quickly.
Yeah, Romain Faux here in the McLaren also seems to be a strong driver in wet conditions. Remember, he poled it at Manicourt, I believe, which was also a wet race, and he spent a long time in the top positions of that race before an unfortunate pit stop error cost him a good result. He'll be hoping that he won't replicate those circumstances here, but you see how he's just dancing that mid-engine McLaren on the limit through turns 1, 2, and 3, up through turn 4. This corner is particularly treacherous in wet conditions. There's a crest right in the middle of the corner that can unsettle the car, but Romain seems to have it all under control, and he is absolutely driving away from Terrafino and Cadet as we speak.
Yeah, and clearly doing a very good job in his GT4s. We're seeing moves being made in the LMP3s. Mobin Khan is fighting with Eric Fenson. Fenson has caught Khan, even despite the battling that we saw between the 77 and the 8 for P4 and P5. Khan, though, under a lot of pressure now. Daniel Zegers right on the back of these two as well, ready to pick up any kind of scraps if these two leave any down. We've only completed 8 minutes of this race, but we've already seen a heap of drama and drivers getting closer to and falling away from a few drivers. So this could be a real race of survival, of trying to get the lap times in lap after lap, and of making moves effectively. Daniel Zegers looking for it. Oh, big slide from Eric Benson. I was surprised he got it stopped into turn 1. I thought he was going to go off the track, and lucky to keep it out of Mobin Khan in the end. But these three, they are not going to be leaving each other an inch. This is going to be a great battle towards the end.
Yeah, this is getting a bit crazy, honestly. We've still got a long way to go in this race, and Mobin Khan's still holding on to that P3 as Ovando and Diaz are battling for the lead ahead. And let's see what kind of line Fenson will be able to find here. Khan getting the advantage on the way into the corner, off the racing line where the grip is, but the over-under is on for Eric Fenson. Is he going to be able to make it work around the outside here? It's always difficult, but Khan getting on the brakes a little bit earlier. Fenson carries the momentum around the outside, and he avoids getting on the curbs and the white line, which is super slippery in these conditions, and third place is his.
What a move that is for Eric Fenson. He's into the podium positions. Can he make this work for him? Stephen Lakota, it's not working for him at the moment. He's down to P10 now after a mistake. Maybe some contact. We don't know. We don't quite know yet. Down at turn 7 and turn 8. They'll run their way up through the middle sector with the 2-3-2, but nothing going on there for Lakota. He'll be trying to get through on Garreton and Daniel Oliver, I'm sure, in the next couple of laps, and not the line for Christian Garreton that we saw. There we go, losing the rear end into turn 7. It seems like it's a bit of an easy mistake to make, and in the end, he styled that out relatively well, didn't he? Oh, as we get close down in towards the hairpin. Battle in the GT4s. That is a very close move. Jeremy Manella trying to get through on Tristan Cadet, who gets the exit. I think it's pretty much dead level, but the inside line will favour Cadet in towards 7 and 8. He won't need to worry about it at all. He is well ahead as they make their way through the double right-hander, and Manella's attempts are going to come up short this time.
Yeah, certainly will. Manella looking pretty good for the time being. He's up 4 spots from where he started. One of the biggest gainers in the GT4 field, but Romain Foe and Matt Benson have gained the most spots at 5 each, and Foe's trying his best to chase down Myers and Rogers up ahead of him, but the times have sort of leveled out now that things are getting into their rhythm. See what Michael Terrafino can do here to try and keep Cadet, Manella, and to say nothing of Matthew Wyckoff and Lambert Jesse behind, who just went side by side through the corner. The Caymans will be loving it around here. Lovely, light and responsive car in the dry, and it's certainly working well in the wet for many drivers.
Yeah, we're really being able to see which drivers can adapt to conditions the best in this kind of scenario. It's clear to see that Ovando and Diaz are really showing their class at the front of the LMP3 field. Oh, that's Daniel Zekas having an issue down at turn 8. That was a weird camera angle to pick it up as well. I wonder where he went off for that camera angle to pick it up. Let's see what happened. Down into turn 8. Has he gone off the track? Yeah, he's gone wide. Oh, he's gone into the gravel, sliding it off and just trying to get it out of the gravel. And you can see how difficult it is with the soggy stones not really helping with much traction. But he's out of the gravel trap, but down on where he'd want to be, definitely.
Yeah, indeed. The problem, I think, for Zegas there was just, you know, the car's loaded up coming into turns 7 and 8. Oh, here comes Manella trying again on Tristan Cadet. He's very deep into the hairpin, but he manages to pull it up for the apex and will likely nail the exit as well. That was a big dive. I thought for sure he was going to overshoot the corner, but apparently Jeremy Manella is looking quite aggressive and pulling it off so far, trying to get into the top 6 here. You're right, Michael Terrafino does look to be the cork in the bottle in this battle. Romain Foe is now some 4 seconds ahead of this fight, and it was only a couple of laps ago that he made the move on Terrafino.
Yeah, it's been a really up and down first 12 minutes of the race. I think with the rain, you know, with everything being a little bit slower, every corner really becomes an overtaking opportunity. So it feels like this race is going through a little bit slower than it probably is, just because there's action. Tristan Cadet going around. Oh, we were on board with him as well. He's gone around in the middle of the corner. That's an awful place to be stuck as well. He should be able to right it without getting in anybody's way, and does, but it's an awful place to spin. I don't think there was any help from behind. He just lost the rear end in the middle of the corner, but Tristan Cadet spinning himself around, going to the back of the field in the GT4s, and that's going to help, you know, empty this train a little bit as we show a replay of what happened, and you can see rear end just gone. And oh my word, that is very lucky for the chasing the Delta car of Matthew Wyckoff to get through that there.
Yeah, certainly was. Once again, it's the nature of the circuit not working to his favor there for Tristan Cadet. The dip coming through that corner, unsettles the rear of the car. Now Manella is trying his best to find his way past Terrafino. The move is not going to happen here at turn 3, but if he nails the exit out of turn 4, we've seen him going at the turn 5 hairpin last couple of laps in a row, and I'm pretty sure he'll be able to make it work this time as well. Terrafino will be aware of him. Coming down the straight, the nose is shown for the Porsche, but he's going to pull out of the move for a second. This is interesting here. So I think Manella probably getting into a bit more of a rhythm and going to try somewhere else.
Yeah, let's see if he can make a move in the middle sector. Going to be very tricky to do so there. But let's see. Oh, that's Jeremy Rogers going around turn 8 again. It's been a bit of a killer so far in this race. We've seen, well, you know, at least 6 or 7 drivers have issues up here in the opening quarter of an hour. There he goes, rear end going around in the number 58 and having to wait for an opportunity to get himself back onto the racing line. Here, though, oh my word, in towards turn 10. Joe Manella is going to gain the position of Michael Terrafino. I think Manella had some issues of his own breaking into that corner, but Terrafino losing it into the sun and almost going all the way around. Lucky to keep it in a straight line.
Yeah, it was a good save from Terrafino. We'll see it happen here. He just lost it by himself, and I think Manella probably was thinking, oh, is he going to come back on track right beside me? That's probably why we saw that little whoopsie from him as well, but fortunately Terrafino slowed it right down and got back onto the track safely, clearly behind Jeremy Manella. Here we go then. The LMP3 leaders have caught our GT4s and it's side by side. Here comes Diaz. He's going to try and go for the lead on Ovando, and he gets it done.
Oh, what a move that is, and oh, with a little bit of traffic as well, a little bit of contact between the two teammates. Ovando nearly spinning his teammate Michael Diaz around. We saw Diaz win out in the race last time. Can he make it 2 from 2? Boris Angel Ovando will want to have as big a championship margin as he can going into the final round. But for the time being, Michael Diaz, he didn't qualify particularly well, but he is racing absolutely magnificently. He's back up into the lead. Ovando can't make a move into turn 1. And for the time being, it's taken 15 minutes, but Michael Diaz takes the lead in the LMP3s.
Yep, that's going to be a crucial extra couple of points in his favor. With Ovando getting pole position, he's gained himself an extra point over Diaz already. And Diaz was, oh, okay, Mobin Khan is coming into the pits here. Very early pit stop for Mobin. I'll be interested to see what he can do from here due to that. I can't see any mechanical black flags or anything like that. I think Khan's just decided to get himself out of the fight there and just mind his own business towards the end of the race. But yeah, Diaz was pretty vocal last round saying, look, you know, yeah, the championship gap might seem close, but I'm going to need Boris to have a really bad couple of races in order to have a chance at the championship. I mean, he's gotten half the job done getting into the lead over his teammate, but he's going to have to rely on something else happening to try and get some advantage back. Here's Lando Tega, by the way, catching the curb into turn 1 and a big slide off into the gravel trap. Does he keep it out of the barrier? Oh, a bit hard to tell from that angle, but I don't see any damage on the car.
Yeah, I think that'll be a screenshot for Mr. Hedge come the end of the week. That was quite a view of Lando Tega, who's had his issues so far this season, but still running in P10 just ahead of that pitter Mobin Khan. Side by side though, here we go. Wyckoff and Terrafino. Wyckoff around the outside at the final turn. That's bold and it's brave. And he's up into what is, I believe, P8 now. Oh, as Terrafino comes into the pit lane. So in the end, it takes a little bit of the shine off it for Matthew Wyckoff. But regardless, the commitment on show there was incredible.
Yeah, certainly was, and I think the final turn is one of the corners you're going to be seeing a lot of outside passing because it's the fastest corner on the entire racetrack. A lot of rubber gets laid down in the dry on the inside there, so if you're on the outside, you have that rougher tarmac, you have more grip. Meanwhile, the leaders of LMP3 coming through here, Kalen Tobin and the number 23 having to make way for Ovando on the inside of turn 4. Not the most ideal place to have to alter your line, but Ovando's trying everything he can to keep up with Diaz for the time being. Diaz seems to be managing the traffic a lot better than Boris here.
Yeah, but not down at turn number 5. Looked a little bit tricky for Diaz to get it stopped. In the end, he's got away with it somewhat, but he's now got to get through Lambert Jesse. Inside for Avando on Wyckoff, done, and you can see up in... Oh, it's actually not done, because around the outside comes the GT4. This is what we're talking about the rain being a great leveler. The LMP3s aren't much quicker than the GT4s around corners at the best of times, let alone in these wet weather conditions. And in the end, Avando's lost another few tenths to his teammate and championship rival, and he's got another car to get through. Can he do it on the inside at turn 10 and 11? I think he can on the drive through turn 12, but Avando losing a lot of time. He's now 2 seconds off the back of Diaz.
Yeah, certainly is, man. Diaz gaining a great advantage through that traffic stanza, you could say. Now trying to find his way past Manella around the outside of the final corner. He's going to have to switch to the inside to really get the move done. The GT4s maintain their behavior in the dry of having to track all the way out to the outside of corners. They just aren't able to alter their lines as quickly as the LMP3s can. Oh, Avando looks like going for the pit lane, is he? No, I saw that flick to the right there for Avando and thought he was going for the pits. I mean, we've seen a couple of cars, Mobin Khan and Daniel Oliver, both go for the pits very early. I'm wondering if the other LMP3s are thinking, hang on a minute, we might have to try that ourselves.
I think the conundrum on the pit stops can be down to some of the traffic here. I mean, I mentioned, you know, towards the start of the broadcast how we're not really going to be seeing the LMP3s lapping the GT4s terribly much in this race. If you are, you know, Mobin Khan, you're pitting before you meet a lot of these GT4s, you're less likely to have to lap as many of them. And I think that's a pretty good strategy to take. If you're the likes of Diaz Avando, do you try and get through all of the GT4s and then build up a gap? I think it's all part of the strategy, but the added element of the fact that the LMP3s aren't as quick as they usually are compared to the GT4s is going to come into the thoughts of the drivers when it comes to the strategy, and I think that's add a bit of a dimension to this race that we haven't seen so far this season. As it is, here is Jesse and Wyckoff rising over turn 8, going into turn 9. They've got a little bit of company with them, and I believe that is Stephen Lakota. No, it's not, it's Fernando Rodriguez. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we do have some very similar looking blue and orange cars on the grid, don't we?
Yeah, indeed, blue and orange, underrated color combo. Love to see it. Yeah, the point you're making about getting a gap on the GT4 traffic, I guess it depends on how close together the packs of cars are, because you know, we're only 40 minutes in. We're only 20 minutes into this race, and the field spread of the GT4s is quite large. It's looking like throughout the whole field of the cars that are close together anyway. Leader Aiden Young to Michael Terrafino, about 1 minute and 10 seconds. That's quite a wide margin. So, you know, ideally, a track where, you know, a lap is around 1:54, 1:55 in the LMP3s, you'd want to try and get 30 seconds or so ahead of the GT4 leader to really be safe on that clearing the traffic and getting a gap strategy. Here comes Wyckoff, though. He's going to take the position over Lambert Jesse, who runs very wide coming out of turn 1, and the sun peeks out from behind the clouds, makes it an awful lot easier to see where the puddles are.
Yeah, it's got his hat on as we run our way through the opening sector, but, you know, equally, that could prove to be a little bit of a distraction for the drivers, particularly when going through the spray. And when you're climbing up a couple of these elevations, I'm thinking mostly up towards turn 10 and 11 where, you know, you're going to be looking directly into the sun, a wet track. It's not going to be the nicest view, but you are right. It's going to be a nice little help for the drivers in most parts of the circuit as to where these big puddles are. Wyckoff needing to get away from Lambert Jesse. That's going to have to be his #1 task. His next driver to try and overtake is Jeremy Manella, but he's 4 seconds up the road, got a lot of work to do, and going that wide at turn 8 is not going to help. They run back down the hill towards turn 9. Just a roller coaster through the middle sector. And Wyckoff, he's made the move, but it's not convincing yet, is it?
Yeah, not quite. I think these two are going to be very well matched, at least in the consistency stakes. Neither of them have much of it right now. Here comes Lambert Jesse around the outside and is going to take the position back from Matthew Wyckoff. And speaking of chasing the Delta, Aaron Myers, teammate to Matthew Wyckoff, just had a very scary moment I saw on my end. Coming through the dip, coming up to, I believe, turn 10 or so, Eric Fenson tried around the outside of him and actually made contact. I'm amazed that he managed to hold on to it after that, but he did lose a couple of seconds. It's going to be very crucial for Aaron Myers to try and stay as clean as he can and avoid stuff like that. Not that he could do much about it anyway, because Aiden Young is now 17.5 seconds ahead of him in the lead of this race.
Yeah, big leads for Aiden Young, and this is what it was. Oh my word, that was a bit of a hit with the LMP3 going off the road. Yeah, very lucky, as you said, to keep it pointing in a straight line, but not what Aaron Myers would want to see at all, and I don't think he's going to be overly happy with how this race is going, particularly as Aiden Young is likely to be able to pull out a bit of a gap going into the final round, albeit I'm talking about a gap of 5 points, maybe 6. It's not going to be big, but realistically going into the final round in the championship as tight as this, with two drivers that have dominated so much, and with the very small winner's bonus, you want to be as close as you can, and Myers will have to be trying to try and focus on getting second place, because Cade Smith is taking points off Aaron Myers and maybe could be critical points come next week.
Yeah, it's all critical at the end of the day. Every single corner is going to count in these conditions. We're keeping an eye on Fernando Rodriguez here as he tries to chase down Daniel Zegers for 4th place. Michael Diaz has continued to extend the gap over Boris Ovando, and I briefly saw Ovando and Fenson close together on the timesheets. I think that's just the preferred line for the LMP3s coming out of the final corner. They want to try and stick to the wetter side of the circuit there and just cool down the tires, I believe. Tire heat is going to be a factor here. It is a very cool track. Only 17 degrees Celsius in these conditions, but any chance you can get to cool the tires down with so many high load corners, putting energy into those soft wet tires, you're going to take it.
Yeah, and it's not going to be as much. I mean, Algarve is a killer on the tyres normally, isn't it? I mean, in the dry, it's one where you look at and you think that's going to be tricky to keep the tyres in the window that you'd like them to be operating in. It's somewhat similar to the Bahrain International Circuit in that regard, but in the wet it takes a little bit of that element away. But even so, if those tyres start to get out of an operating window that you're comfortable with in the wet here, that's really going to be tricky, and we are seeing some drivers struggle. It only takes an extra little bit of rotation, it only takes a little extra bit of acceleration off of the corner to unsettle the car, and Wyckoff, my word, that is a big old snap. And no surprise to see him spinning around. Really, I think he's going to be happy that he didn't find any kind of wall, albeit the walls are very much pushed back on this part of the racetrack. That was a big moment, and it's going to really cost him a lot of time. And he's back down, but I mean, behind the positions that he gained over the last few laps, and behind Caelan Tobin and Lambert Jesse by quite a margin, 10 seconds or so.
Cade Smith has just had an incident in roughly the same location, but it was a little bit further up the circuit. He got on the brakes with an LMP3 behind him, and the LMP3 didn't do anything wrong. Just Cade got on the white lines there, and all the grip went out of the right side of the car, and around he went, just avoids getting into the barrier. So that's promoted Aaron Myers up into 2nd place. Travis Pruitt, my lord, okay. Going airborne across the turn 1 curb and finding the bundles.
Yeah, that's one for Mr. Hedge. No doubt about that. That was quite a moment as he came across, and the sun, the angle of the sun coming in, made it look all the more spectacular, but not the line to take. I don't think it takes an expert to know that. And Travis Pruitt, there we go, bit of a slow-mo. How much airtime does he get over this curb? Little bit. Go, all four wheels off the circuit. Oh, that is some great, and thanks to Hugo Luis on the cams for getting us that. That is a great shot. And there was a gulf between his car and the circuit, you could say. I'm very sorry, but we do continue onwards. Nearly half this race done. This is just becoming a bit of a race of survival, especially as we get towards pit stops for drivers that haven't gone there. I don't really know if pit stops are going to change much, particularly because drivers are unlikely to change tyres, you'd think, or all four at least.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, getting fresh tyres probably wouldn't cost you all that much in these conditions. It would be handy to have some extra rubber on hand, but you got to weigh that against how much time you're going to lose to drivers who don't take tyres, and, you know, will they be able to hold on as the rubber wears down? The rain has come back. I mentioned there was that little break in the rain at the start of the race. We didn't see any precipitation, but I think we're going to be well in precipitation territory all the way towards the end from here, looking at the weather radar, and I do see a big blob of yellow on the radar as well, so the rain may very well get heavier before this race is out.
Yeah, it feels much like a British summer day where it's raining and then it's dry and then all of a sudden you look up and it's sunny but it's still raining. So I think that's a bit of a feel that we're getting here. This is the battle. All of a sudden, the battle for the lead in the LMP3s. Diaz has lost a little bit of time on the last few laps, and Boris Lavando is right there with him. So this is going to be an interesting little fight. Eric Fenton, you can see as well, making it a 1-2-3 as they run their way through turn 4. That 30 minutes in, all of a sudden, bunching it back up. If this was the final minute, we'd really be sitting up in our seats. But now we're into a stage of the race where can Avando come back? Can Fenton put the cat amongst the pigeons? We'll see. Avando, though, that's not the line. Too deep into turn 5, and he nearly hit the back of his teammate in doing so.
Yeah, but he's able to gear it up with a better run off the racing line in these conditions. Fenton is certainly a good wet weather driver. Remember, he won Manicourt, the other wet race of this season, so he's certainly got a lot of experience, and he's playing to it perfectly here, making some great gains on the precision racing cars just up ahead of him as they work their way past the Porsche of Matt Benson, who's still up 4 places from where he started, but has been one of the drivers who struggled a bit more in these conditions in the GT4 class. Let's see what kind of gains Benson will be able to make in the final sector this time around. And remember, we're still waiting on pit stops for the majority of our field. We're halfway through now. Now's about the time that drivers are going to be looking at getting into the pit lane.
Yeah, let's see who decides to dive in the near future. Of course, we've seen drivers go early, which means drivers can go late as well, you'd heavily presume. Let's see, Avando's going to come into the pot. And Avando is going to try something a little bit different to his teammate. Of course, we saw drama in the pit stops last time out at Hockenheim. I would suggest, if you haven't seen that race, go back and watch it when we finished here in Portimao, because it really was a dramatic affair. Can he try and create a little bit of drama in the pit stops? We will see. Cade Smith is creating a little bit of drama. Once again, his car goes pop through turn 8, and he is losing a little bit more time. But it has, all of Cade Smith's moments has promoted Aaron Myers to P2, and it means that despite that the race gap being 18 seconds, the championship gap will likely to be staying pretty close.
Yes, problem for Boris Avando in the pit lane, only a minor one. He ended up overshooting his pit box by just about half a meter or so and had to reverse back in. So that's not ideal for our LMP3 championship leader. And, well, fresh out onto the circuit again, presumably getting new tyres on, because I did see he had some front-end damage as well that he has repaired. So he's had a bit of extra time to change tyres, potentially. Not too sure if he has, but we'll have to wait and see. And regardless, he's got a fresh car aerodynamically, and we'll see if this decision to pit early compared to his rivals works out for him.
Yeah, through we go into the second half of this race, into a really, really critical 30 minutes for the championship. Of course, it's only a 9-hour championship when you really think about it, but these 30 minutes are going to be ever so important when we get to the final race in a week's time. Of course, you say of course it would, but in the wet, in changeable conditions, in a situation where the pit stops are ongoing, we don't necessarily know exactly where drivers are. They're not fighting each other directly on the circuit. they're fighting each other on pace at the moment. These are the minutes that are really going to count in a week's time when we crown our 2 champions. But for the time being, Diaz holding firm at the front. Garreton having some adventures, and he is finding himself spinning around, going off the road. And is that Bryce Angel Ovando? I think it is. And Ovando getting held up a little bit more on his outlap. Ooh.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we'll see the 77 of Eric Fenson try to go for the lead on Michael Diaz. With Ovando out of the picture for the time being, Fenson has turned up the wick, and he's going to try and go for it here on Diaz. Fenson has shown himself to be one of the drivers more willing to get the elbows out in these conditions, but Diaz having none of it.
No, and it looked for all the world that we could have seen Michael Diaz spin around after a little bit of contact with Eric Fenson, but these guys are losing time with each other as they continue to fight. Bryce Angel Ovando will be gaining time at every single corner with these two fighting, and I think he's actually gained an extra second on the last lap or so, if the timing tower is anything to go by. You can see him, that's 37.9. Keep an eye on that over the next couple of minutes if these guys decide to not pit, because I do believe that has been coming down a little bit over the course of the last lap or so. But Eric Fenson getting feisty. Oh, that is is that Fernando Rodriguez? No, it's not Fernando Rodriguez. I think that's Lando Tega going off the road indeed. And he's had some more issues, but again, the blue and orange from a distance, they all look kind of the same, don't they?
Yeah, they certainly do. I had to look twice at Lando myself. Lando's not having a fun time in these conditions. He is now a lap down on our LMP3 leaders, and he hasn't come into the pits yet. So, yeah, Lando Tega struggling quite a bit in the wet here at Portimao. Now, do either Diaz or Fenson go for the pits this time? They do not. So, Boris Ovando's potential undercut, is going to increase as a result here if they keep battling like they are. Don't forget, Eric Fenson has some damage to the front end of his car here as he goes by Justin Bragan into the first corner. I don't think it's affecting his pace all that much, but good lord, he's going to be going all the way through the runoff area. Around the first couple of turns, probably going to be serving a massive slowdown as a result. Actually, no. No black flag showing up there for the number 77, but yeah, keep a close eye on the front end of that thing. It's looking a little warped.
I was going to say, it's almost like he took a long lap penalty there, going all the way around the outside at turn 1 and 2 and into 3. Daniel Ziegas, however, has lost a position to Fernando Rodriguez. That's going on. This is going on. Bryce Angel Ovando trying to get through on Stephen Lakota. Turn 1, inside, championship leader, up into P6. He's got that move done, and he's now got a nice bit of clean air to drive into in his attempts to try and close on his his race rivals and the championship rivals as well. With all of that lapping that he's done, he's only lost a handful of tenths. What can he do now in his pursuit to try and get after Zach Hebert? I presume Hebert will pit long before Ovando can get to him, but Ovando has to use this clean air to his advantage, lest he might find himself losing points to his teammate and his championship rival in the penultimate round, and we go into the final race with a championship that could be decided on who finishes ahead. That's how close it has got in this GT4 and LMP3 championship. I cannot wait to see who takes the titles in 7 days' time. Ziegas, though, we did see it briefly before we saw the incident, the overtake with Bryce Angel Ovando, but Ziegas behind Rodriguez now, the 2-2-1, driving a really solid race again tonight.
Yeah, Fernando Rodriguez seems to like the wet at Portimao. And I'm seeing a response from Eric Fenson here. He's coming into the pit lane. I've been looking at the lap times as well for Ovando and Diaz. Ovando was faster on the last lap, but Diaz has gotten into the 153s once again. We'll see if Ovando will be able to respond to that as Fenson takes his pit stop. I would expect him to repair the damage to his front bumper. Ovando already approaching the final corner here. The undercut is going to be massive, especially with Fenson's mistake I was going to say turn 1, but really it was turns 1, 2, and 3 that he was off at, and Fenson has gotten it done with a 13.6 second stop, but Ovando's pit stop was only 11 seconds, and he'll be through solidly on the way into the first corner.
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very interesting little part of the race with Ovando clearly ahead of Eric Fenson. It's going to be a little bit touch and go with Michael Diaz. I think Ovando should have the measure. of Diaz, but it's going to be close, no doubt about that, as they run their way through for yet another lap. We are nearly at the 2/3 mark in this race, and Michael Diaz still yet to pit. But as we see Eric Fenson have some issues under braking, we are also seeing Aiden Young into the box, race leader into the box in the GT4s. I could call him a championship leader, but Aaron Myers and Aiden Young come into this race after Young's point for pole tied. So, I mean, they're joint leaders, aren't they, really?
Yeah. At the moment, don't forget as well, there's an extra point for fastest lap as well in the PRL points format. So which of them gets it is going to help things out even further. Well, there goes Aiden Young out of the lane, and Aaron Myers will move through into the lead of the race. But I'll tell you what, there's not that much of a difference between them. Aaron Myers will be hoping that he's got a little bit left in terms of pace here before he inevitably takes his pit stop. He can't sit behind Young and fuel save like he has at a couple of previous rounds, but you never know. Luck might fall his way. He'll have to find his way into the pits shortly, though, and we'll see the race fall and into a pattern from there. Meanwhile, the LMP3 lead for Diaz, he set a 1:53.8 on the last lap. Ovando could only manage a 54.6 on the previous lap. So Diaz, the advantage is starting to fall back into his favor.
Yeah, interesting how it's shifting sands in this race really are proving to be on a very, very small margin of error. 20 minutes left to go. Will Diaz come in this lap? We'll wait and see. Interesting as well to see how Aiden Young can get on if he has to try and overtake Jeremy Manella. Of course, he's not had to overtake anybody in this race. Controlled the lead into turn one and just walked away from the rest. This is going to be his first taste of actual side-by-side racing, proper racing for position in this race. And can he get through effectively? Will it take him a little bit too much time? Let's see. Lambert Jesse, of course, has been negotiated, but Jeremy Manella has been a bit of a different kettle of fish so far in this race. But you can see the grip, you can see the confidence that Aiden Young has. Can he get through in the next minute or two? Let's see.
Yeah. Myers avoiding the pits on this particular lap. I think he's going to try and run it as long as he can here, if not come in very shortly. So now it's all up to Aiden Young to see if he can work his way past these cars cleanly, and be careful of the LMP3 traffic as well, as Michael Diaz has come in to the pits from the lead of LMP3. Now this is where we're going to see if Boris Ovando's undercut has worked out for him. Ovando with a 54.1 on the previous lap. Diaz, of course, entering the pits on this lap. We'll see what the time delta works out to, as Zegers is going to go to the lead of LMP3 for now. Ovando's pit stop was 11 seconds. I'm expecting around about the same for Diaz. It's approaching 11 seconds. It's going to be exactly the same pit stop time for Diaz as Ovando just exits the final corner now. You know what? I think Diaz has still got the lead.
I think he does as well. Diving down towards turn one, Diaz should have this. He's got a very tight line in the opening turn. He's going to be compromised all the way through this opening sector. But he's got the lead, and he's got it relatively comfortably. A couple of seconds in hand over his teammate Boris Angelo Ovando. And with 19 minutes left of this race to run, Michael Diaz has an upper hand. Can he convert this into a second race win in 2 weeks? Can he convert this into a tightening championship gap and make it under 5 as we go into the Red Bull Ring next week?
Yeah, this is the big question. Of course, Ovando might have to keep an eye out for Fenson as well, who's only 3 seconds back from him at the moment, and we know how strong Fenson has been in this race. Diaz will have to negotiate some traffic as well. I believe that's Romain Faux that he's working his way past. Romain Faux still having a very good race. He's only just come into the pits 1.5 laps ago, and still up behind Cade Smith, but I think could still be a shoo-in for a top 5 at least in that GT4 battle. I was going to mention as well that point for fastest lap. Currently for LMP3 it's in the favor of Ovando, who set a 1:53.3 earlier on in the race. In terms of GT4, tell you what, Aiden Young has a 2:03.1. Aaron Myers has a 2:03.6. So at the moment, Aiden Young has that extra point for fastest lap in GT4.
if it was to finish 1-2 and Aaron Myers was to pick up the extra point for the fastest lap coming into this race, tied on points after already getting the extra point for pole, we would expect to see Aaron Myers holding a 4-point advantage going into the final race of the season. Yes, that maths does add up. I had to double check that myself, but Aiden Young looking to make sure that those points are going to be going into his tally. Needs to get there on Jeremy Manella, needs to get a good exit out of turn 5. Can he get it? Not quite good enough, but he will have to wait a little bit longer in his pursuits for P3. Is he looking for the outside? No, but the offline Manella could give an opportunity to Aiden Young up the inside, turn 8. I'm not going to be brave enough. I wanted to quickly mention, of course, in the LMP3s, I said that, yeah, I was looking for 2 in a row. He'd be looking for 3 in a row, but it'd be 2 in a row with Avando finishing in second just behind him. And mind you, Avando took pole here again. If he takes the fastest lap here again, then we're going to see yet another 1-point gain overall for Michael Diaz, despite winning this race. Aiden Young getting close around the outside. What a move this would be. Got the traction, got the confidence, got P3.
Yeah, didn't quite make the move as quickly as he wanted, though. That's cost him valuable time to Aaron Myers, who is completely alone on the circuit right now. Myers could stand a chance of gaining some time back on Young here. He's been nice and clean and just minding his own business out the front here, running long all the way to the end. And I think that's all Myers can really do here. He knows that Aiden Young is the best driver in the GT4 class when it comes to wet conditions. So he needs to try everything he can to get whatever advantage he can find. Meanwhile, into the pits, there goes Zegers. So that's going to be one more LMP3 completing their pit stop. That just leaves Rodriguez and Hebert, as well as Lando Tega, yet to take their stops. And just as I say that, in comes Rodriguez.
Yeah, and Rodriguez having a very good race, it's fair to say. Consistency being his keyword of the day, but same could be said for Daniel Zegers as well. So nice to see those guys having some good races. Diaz will re-inherit the lead, Avando will re-inherit second, and Fenson will move up to third. The rest of the positions yet to really be solidified. Zegers, Rodriguez and Hebert all will put in a claim for those spots, but Mobin Khan as well will be trying to rock his way through after he pitted nearly half an hour ago now. He'll be back onto the same schedule as everybody else. Let's see him as he comes through the final corner. I think he's going to lose out to Fernando Rodriguez pretty easily here, and Zach Hebert might also come out of the box in front. Rodriguez definitely ahead of Mobin Khan down in towards turn 1, but I think Khan might just have the measure of Zach Hebert out of the pit lane. Indeed he does through turn 1.
Yeah, good stuff there from Mobin Khan, running the sort of opposite strategy to most other drivers in the LMP3 field. It's worked out well for him so far. Let's see what the last 14.5 minutes brings. What it has brought for second in LMP3 is Eric Fenson getting a little bit closer to Boris Avando. He gained 3 seconds, 3.2 seconds on the previous lap, did Eric Fenson. So he's ever closer to Avando. Those are the live standings at the moment. And right now, it seems like only a 5-point gap between Boris Avando and Michael Diaz if the positions stay the same here. And if Avando ends up losing the position to Fenson, then the championship gap is going to be even closer. Whoa, dearie me. That was Lakota there, going for a big slide in the hairpin.
Yeah, almost like we had a neck on each other there, wasn't it? As he had that spin down at the hairpin. But yeah, with those points on the right-hand side, you can see, even with Diaz closing, that 5-point gap is going to feel very good for Boris Avando, because really, getting pole position could be so critical. If he can get pole position and a podium, that should just about do it for his championship. So the extra points that he's been able to pick up over the last few weeks are so crucial. Michael Diaz has 2 of those extra points in fastest laps so far. Avando has 3. Looking to pick up another 2 tonight would make it 5. So those 3 points in change of difference between Diaz and Avando could be the defining factor come the end of the season. Same could be said in the GT4s, because Aaron Myers has 8 of those additional points. Aiden Young has 4, albeit Aiden Young looking to gain an extra couple. This is the championship standings at the moment as they run, and it's going to be a 3-point gap for the time being. It doesn't get much closer than this, does it really?
Yeah, it will actually be a 4-point gap with Young taking the fastest lap, because with those live standings, the software only grabs the overall fastest lap of the session. So add 1 point onto that advantage for Aiden Young on your napkin, which I presume is sitting in front of you, and that is the gap, 4 points for the GT4 lead. Myers just completing his pit stop as we saw on screen, and man, Aiden Young has a massive advantage. He now leads by 20 seconds or so over Aaron Myers. So barring a crash or a rare mistake from Aiden Young, I think that's going to be our order in the top 2 at least, but Romain Foe could stand a chance of losing a spot here if he doesn't get going quickly. Oh dear. Oh man, he had a great race in the wet, but he will lose 5th place to Jeremy Manella, will lose 6th place to Lambert Jesse as he's struggling to get that car going again. He's trying to find a clear spot to get going. All it takes is one error and your race completely changes. Yeah, you can see how frustrated Romain is.
Yeah, he's clearly not a happy driver in that McLaren. You can understand why. He was driving such a good, consistent race, but in the last 12 minutes, seeing it almost all, well, not all drift away. Still in P8, but still a great result is now off the cards for Romain, as he will have to try and pick up all the pieces he can. Lambert Jesse's a few seconds up the field. You can see him in front. There he is. Can he catch? That's going to be target number 1 for him. For Ovando, keeping Eric Venson behind is the most important thing with only 1 round to go. If Eric Venson can get through and take another couple of points off of Ovando, Michael Diaz is right there for the championship battle into the final race of the season. Into turn 5 they go, no move there, but Venson, we've seen he's hungry for moves. How hungry is he going to be in the final 10 minutes?
I'm pretty sure he will be very hungry indeed. I'm seeing for our LMP3 leader, it's going to be 5 laps to go when Diaz crosses the line next. It's a very long lap here at Portimao, especially in wet conditions. So I'm sure Fenson will have those numbers in front of him and will be deciding, okay, now's the time to start really turning up the wick as I did before. Ovando, meanwhile, gaining a little bit in the last few minutes. He's not being harassed by Fenson as much as he was, but there's every chance that Fenson could find something extra here, especially if there's some adverse traffic for our championship leader.
And Ovando, who did lead this race, has slipped back, hasn't he, in the grand scheme of things. He was leading, Diaz caught, then Fenson caught. Diaz is through. Can Fenson make it 2 from 2? Let's see. With only 9.5 minutes left on the clock. Laps are really ticking away, mind you, though. Last lap for Diaz was a 1:54.4, which means that it's going to be close whether we have, 4 or 5 left in this race. I think he may be able to control the pace. Round, though. Oh, and there's a little bit of contact with Manella. That is Daniel Oliver. Manella now stuck on the racetrack. Oh, my word.
God.
That is not a rejoin that I think was particularly smart. I do not know how there hasn't been a massive T-bone there. I will be completely honest with you.
Yeah, was that Tega that was coming up on Manella there, who evidently has a lot of damage there? It looks like the rear right is not looking very healthy there. Oh no, it's a shame when something like that happens. Manella, he didn't do anything wrong there. It was just a case of Oliver spitting up ahead of him, and well, he managed to, he clipped the left side of the car, and then I think a little bit of panic there as Lando Tega started to come through. Fortunately for Tega, he had a poor run out of the corner, otherwise that would definitely have been more contact. And I think we missed another incident just before that point. It looks like it was a car off the circuit, Matthew Wyckoff. That's how close the margin was for Tega. Wow. Okay. Well, you can definitely see Lando Tega was prepared for that. This happened just before that. Wyckoff. Oh, massive slide there, and that was another LMP3 that was just behind him at the time. Just a solo mistake.
Not the first time we've seen Wyckoff make a mistake at that corner as well, so not good for him. This is another mistake, this time from Tristan Cadet. As that is a contact. Is that contact with Daniel Ziegers there?
I think it might have been.
Oh yeah, Ziegers didn't lose too much time. That's why I was slightly confused. But yeah, Ziegers coming into contact with Christian Cadet. And let's see how it happened. Up in towards turn 10. Oh, it's just... That is Cadet maybe losing the rear end a touch, and then Ziegers arriving onto the scene as if the 254 doesn't even exist.
Yeah, difficult. You know, you wanna try and turn in early for that section because it's very easy to run wide, but he wasn't quite past the GT4. And if anything, I think the GT4 was sort of blending a little to the left at the time as well. Probably going to be judged a racing incident by the stewards, but yeah, still not ideal for either driver involved. Jeremy Manella, meanwhile, is coming in for a second stop, and he's he got a mechanical black flag from that contact. Here's another mistake from Romain Faux, meanwhile. Oh no.
And yeah, he's gone around again. Wyckoff will come through.
Okay.
Faux on the racing line. I think Faux did make a little move there. I'm not too sure exactly what unfolded, but clearly Matthew Wyckoff he's in the walls tonight. He really is. As Christian Garaton is going around, and is the confidence, is the concentration maybe waning just a touch in the closing stages of this race?
I get the feeling that might be the case. You know, the drivers see that there's not much time remaining, but remember the fuel load is going to be getting light again, likely ever worn tires for those that decided not to take them. So a bit more wayward behavior from all of the cars here, and the rain just has not let up. It's been coming down in patches, but the wetness of the track has remained pretty much the same, if not getting slightly worse over the course of the whole event. It's certainly been great to see the likes of Aiden Young rise above it all. One of the few drivers that we haven't seen make some kind of error here tonight, but we wouldn't expect anything less from Aiden considering how strong he is in wet conditions.
And in dry conditions, and in pretty much everything else in these GT4s, he has been the class of the field. And along with Aaron Myers this season, they have just flown away. I mean, you look at the PRL record sheet, and their names crop up quite a few times, and for good reason as well. And with every race, it feels, their names keep cropping up more and more and more, and it's just due to their consistency, it's just due to their ability, and it is so great to see. The GT4 almost a little tab on the sheet of records in the PRL is littered with the names Aiden Young and Aaron Myers, and lap records, pole records. You know, they have it all at this point, and it's just a case of the next race we go to, every time we have a new GT4 race, which one of them has the record, rather than do either one have the record. It's almost like you presume that they do, just because of the dominance that they've shown. But Aiden Young, particularly today, even with Aaron Myers getting himself up into P2 and a very good job in that, Aiden Young's just pulled away from the rest, and he's just looked untouchable tonight.
Yeah, sliding that Mercedes around, he is supremely in control of the front engine rear wheel drive V8 machine, and I mean the lead has just extended further for him, hasn't it? Now 22 seconds the margin for Aiden Young, and he's setting himself up well for a championship challenge here, as that's Mobin Khan going off just behind him. Fernando Rodriguez will move into 5th in LMP3. Ah man, Mobin, you know, he doesn't seem to have been enjoying a lot of these wet conditions, though he had a great qualifying performance, just on the brakes a little too late, probably car unsettled, and off he went.
Yeah, not looking the best of moments for Fernando Rodriguez, but it has been a good race overall for him. Still looking like he's tracking for a top 6. He's going to have to try and defend towards the end. Zach Hebert, who is in that P7 slot. But we'll see if Hebert...
Sorry, I think I misidentified the driver there.
Oh, it's... you know, I've done it more times than you have, so don't you worry about it. But yeah, Fernando Rodriguez doing a good job for the time being. Let's see if he can hold on to this P6 with only 3 minutes on the clock. Sun poking out once again, and we'll see if Diaz can convert this. I will say, I've just taken another quick check of the records sheet. We have only been here once in the GT4s, and guess who won? It was Aiden Young, so he's looking to make it 2 from And let's see, just keep this up because he's just been so consistent.
Yes, indeed. I believe a slight technical problem there for Dara, or is that Hugo that was repeating his... yeah, okay, cool, all right. You probably
I had a moment myself, I was scared.
Yeah, all of you viewing probably wouldn't have heard that, but for the moment, it sounded like there were two Daras in the commentary booth. In any case, 2 minutes to go in the race. Michael Diaz leading by 6 seconds over Boris Ovando with 2 laps to go. This is looking to be in Diaz's hands. He just needs to hold on to the end.
Yeah, he just needs to get his way to the checkered flag. 150 on the clock. Oh, it's going to be tight, actually, whether we get 1 or 2. I think this could be the white flag. I didn't quite see whether Barney was waving it, but my timing page says we've got an extra lap after this one. I do remember that our timing page says something different towards the end, though, at Hockenheim, so we'll have to wait and see. But Diaz has the lead, just has to keep it within the white lines. He's got the gap where he can control that, I think, towards the end, but we'll have to see if that's the case. Through he'll come to turn 5, 6 seconds in the lead. Diaz looking to close that gap down to 5. It's getting tight. I mean, going into the final week, Diaz will have won 3 in a row if he can get this to the end. If he can make it 4 in a row, that would be critical. Barney's waving the white flag. This could be the last one, therefore.
Yeah, looks like it. There goes Zach Hebert past Fernando Rodriguez, who's still recovering from his earlier spin, but Rodriguez is going to fight it into turn 1. It is still on for 6th place in LMP3, and Hebert is going to try his best to find his way past here now that he knows there is only 1 lap to go. Barney definitely is waving the white flag up there in the stand, and this so far is the closest battle on track in both of our classes. Daniel Oliver, we saw him have that off on the replay. He's gotten damage from that, and he's going to come in to get that damage repaired. I don't know if we'll see him emerge before the race ends.
No, and I think it's going to be a sad thing to see. Daniel Oliver coming into the pit lane, and he is unlikely to be coming out, but we've only got 13 seconds on the clock. Where is Michael Diaz? He has won 2 in a row. He's looking to make it 3. Is he going to find the line? The timer is ticking down. The checkered flag looks like it's waving, and Michael Diaz closes the gap in the championship once again. It's going to be 5 points between himself and his teammate Boris Angel Ovando, heading to the final race in 1 week's time at the Red Bull Ring. Ovando, he has been dominant this season. Diaz, though, chipping away. 5 points it is. It can't get much closer than that. Aiden Young is coming around the final sector now. He's looking to make it 2 wins from 2 at Algarve in the GT4s, and to make it his 5th win of the season, I should say. Got confused there with Aaron Myers. His 5th win in 8 in what has been a very, very dominant display from him tonight.
Yeah. Coming into this round, you expected Aiden Young to be a shoo-in for victory. He loves driving in the rain. He loves having the lack of grip available to him. He can manage that better than just about anyone else in the GT4s here in the Precision Racing League. Out of the final corner he comes, and the winning margin is going to be over 23 seconds in the end. Fantastic job from Aiden Young. He is going to get back into the championship lead as a result coming into the final round, but the points margin is going to be minuscule.
Yeah, we're going to have, I think, 5 points in the LMP3s, 4 points when the fastest lap point is added for Aiden Young in the GT4s. It doesn't get much closer than that. And 2 championships where the drivers, they've been the classes of their own fields, likely to be 1st and 2nd. It really could come down to whoever finishes ahead of the other, which is exactly the kind of championship finale that we all want to see. Here we go then. Here are your results. 31 laps it was after a very difficult, a very slow, a wet race at Portimao. It's Michael Diaz, 3 from 3. He wins for Solprec Precision Racing. Boris Angel Ovando is P2. His championship lead cut by yet another another point. Eric Fenson, good display from him. He picks up another podium on his season, with Daniel Zieger's good consistency getting himself in 4th, and Mobin Khan rounding out our top 5. Fernando Rodriguez, he had a couple of moments. He finished in 6th still, ahead of Zach Hebert in 7th. And then we see drivers over a minute down. Lakota had his issues, Daniel Oliver as well, and Christian Garaton rounding out our top 10. Only one more driver, it was Lando Tega, and he was a lap down come the checkered flag. In the GT4s, Aiden Young winning by 25 seconds. A big removal from the half a second that we saw at Hockenheim last time out. He won, of course he won, just ahead of Aaron Myers. Jeremy Rogers was 3rd with a very good display for the middle of the pack racing driver to get himself on the podium. Cade Smith looked like he was on for a podium for a lot of that race. Sadly for him, just slipping to P4. Kalen Tobin 5th in his Aston Martin sees him inside the top 5 in a good result for the 23. Roman Foe had his issues in P6. Lambert Jesse and Justin Braggon 7th and 8th. Tristan Cadet and Robert McGinn 9th and 10th. Kurt Ham a couple of laps down, Matt Benson 3 laps down, Wyckoff 4 after he had some problems, with Jeremy Manella 5, Travis Pruitt 6, Roy Brown 8 and Terrafino 9. Nearly a perfect sequence, only split by someone not big 7 laps down in the end. But they are our results from the LMP3s and the GT4s in our penultimate round of the season. And Reece, I mean, what a result it was in the end. Closing of the championship in both of the championships, and it's pretty interesting just to see how we go into the final round. But with us now and with you is our GT4 championship leader after this race, Aiden Young.
Yeah, Aiden, it's been a long, hard road to back to that championship lead, and it's been a very intense battle with Aaron Myers all the way through. But man, the wet conditions smiled upon you once again here.
Yeah, I was in practice. You know, it was a little weird because it started dry, and then it acted like it was gonna stay dry, but then it started raining, and then it just stayed like that the rest of the way through. I mean, just for the sake of it in practice, I was like, well, you know, while it's dry, I might as well drive on my dry set. Spoiler, that did not help. It made the wet driving a lot harder because when I did wet practice, I was feeling really confident on the set. In the race, I don't know what changed. I mean, I was still fast. My set was still really good, so shout out to my team for making a killer set, and my dad for helping me make tweaks to it to make it a bit better for me. But I just don't know why I was a bit slower in the race and didn't have that extra bit of confidence. It's like if I was 100 in practice, I probably only had about 90% in the race.
Well, regardless, that 90% was still head and shoulders above everybody else, and your winning margin was nearly 26 seconds in the end. It's going to put you in the championship lead by our calculations by 5 points over Aaron Myers coming into the final round at the Red Bull Ring. Are you expecting the Mercedes to be strong on the straights there?
Well, I think from what you guys have seen throughout the season, I've been known to run a little bit higher wing, so I might struggle on straight line speed, but under braking and then just through corners and stuff, the Merc's usually pretty good, so I think it could claw that back there. And you know, if it ends up being a fuel saving battle, it'll be like me and Aaron, and then one's gonna have to send it and the other one's gonna have to just settle that point, because Red Bull Ring, it's very easy track to defend that. Can also be hard to defend that. It just depends on how you play your cards at that specific track and at the specific places on it.
Yeah, indeed, Aiden. Well, congratulations. You get the championship lead back going into the final round, and I guess we'll see where we end up coming out in 7 days' time. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Aiden Young there, masterful drive to P1 in the GT4 class, and I think we'll stick with GT4 and go to our second place man, Aaron Myers.
Yeah, welcome in, Aaron. Difficult qualifying from you. We've seen such good consistency in qualifying. A good start, though, to get yourself up to third and then into second. How important was it in the early stages for you to make those moves quickly?
Definitely extremely important. I think as of tonight, Aiden leads the championship by 4 points. So I needed to secure second in order to stay in this.
I mean, on that championship, 4 points. I mean, that's all it is. It's a race. If a race win, a pole, and a fastest lap secures that for you. How much confidence do you have going into that final round? Of course, yourself and Aiden are in different machinery. How much of an effect do you think that's going to have?
I don't want to use the racer's excuse too early here, but the Mercedes is definitely very fast in the straights. So I'm going to do my best to keep up with them. After tonight, I got a little bit of a bruised ego, so the confidence isn't quite there, but I'll definitely have it by the weekend.
Yeah, but of course, I mean, you've had such great results so far this season. You've still got 4 poles and 3 wins. You're still going to be right up in there regardless. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you, would you say?
I'm going to go with like 8.5, 9.
That's what we like to hear. And we will wish you all the best. And we hope to speak to you again next week, Aaron. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks to Aaron Myers, always such a fantastic sport for us. And Reese, we're sticking on the GT4 theme, it seems.
Yeah, we are. They got in before the LMP3s, so they get first dibs. Jeremy Rogers finishing P3 in the GT4 class. Good stuff from you, Jeremy. The race obviously didn't get off to the best of starts there with that 4 wide into turn 1, though.
Yeah, I just turned it in and hoped that I'd come out the other side. I guess I did.
Yeah, and tried to keep it consistent for the remainder. How was the traffic from your perspective? Because I noticed that all of the LMP3s finished, but it wasn't the case for the GT4s.
Traffic was fine. I was a little disappointed with the first third of my race. I made a lot of mistakes while I was trying to overpush, while trying to keep up with folks. Last third of the race I was super happy with, but no, the P3s did a great job. I mean, they had it was really tough out there for them with not having ABS and having to go off the racing line so often.
Well, in the championship, you are a bit further down, but this will be a good haul of championship points coming into the final round in a week's time. What are you expecting from Red Bull Ring back in the dry?
I don't know. I'm going to have to get used to using curbs again. Yeah, I missed quite a few races there because I was visiting Australia and your homeland and visiting Bathurst. Like, what a great place that is. Best racetrack in the world.
I like the sound of that, Jeremy. Well, we definitely wish you the best of luck for next round to round off the season, and congratulations on the podium.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
Jeremy Rogers with a great drive to third in GT4. Now, Dara, we can move on to our LMP3s. Michael Diaz, race winner, the first to join us.
Yeah, Michael, welcome in. 3 wins from 3 coming into the final round. What a result from you. How high is the confidence after that result?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I had a tough race at Magny, last wet race. But today, it was a lot more comfortable. I mean, I had a frustrating quali, but the race is really what matters in the end. And I had a good run there. So yeah, pretty happy with that.
3 wins from 3. I mean, you really are coming to form at the best possible time. Going into the Red Bull Ring next week, I think you're only going to be 5 points back from your teammate Boris. Yes, you've not necessarily been able to gain too many points with your wins in the last couple of weeks, but how confident are you to try and get a bit of an upper hand on your teammate into the final round?
No, I think it's over with how the points work in the PRL. It's unless Boris has a DNF or something, there's not really much chance to do anything. So from my end, I think it's done. So congrats to Boris on the championship. I might boycott the next race, boycott the points or something. But yeah, Boris is an amazing driver, so I doubt he'll have a bad race. So yeah.
Well, I mean, a pole for you puts it right into your hands. I think, Boris, if you got a pole, Boris would need to finish P3 and you'd win the title if you won the race. So it still is quite close. But well done, Michael. Congratulations on the win. Hopefully we'll see you next week, and hopefully we can see you really put in a challenge like it 4 from 4.
I'll think about it. Anyways, thanks, guys, for the broadcast every night. And I'll think about it. Good. Have a good one, guys.
Michael Diaz there, winner in our LMP3s, and I think we've dragged in Boris Shalavando Reese halfway through a sentence, and he's with you now.
Yeah, apologies for that, Boris. Good to see you here. Man, pole position was yours, but ultimately it seemed like Michael outraced you in the middle phase of the race there.
That pass really left a little sour taste in my mouth. Not from Mike, just from everything, from what happened. Because I set it up for that GT4, expecting that GT4 to stay to the right. So that would have blocked that lane for Mike. I knew he was going to get better traction out of there. But that GT4 darting to the left, that opened up the inside and put me in a vulnerable spot. And actually, that GT4 ended up in the paint. I don't know if you guys noticed, because it was just too much, to get back to the left. And so then I just had to lift, to be honest, because Mike was right on the edge of the dry line there, and his car went all squirrely, and so I couldn't accelerate, because otherwise I would have been into the back of him and probably both of us out of the race. So kind of just backed off. I tried to make the early pit stop work, but that didn't work.
Oh, well, regardless, it's still a second place for you, and gaining enough points to keep the championship lead over Michael coming into the final round. The points margin has narrowed a little bit, but should still be enough to give you a good margin if the Red Bull Ring smiles upon you.
Well, again, I got fastest lap and I got pole position, so I just minimized that damage so much. It's only 1 point damage. It's going to come down to the last race. Red Bull Ring. Hopefully no rain. This car is so tricky in the rain. The tires are so weird. Sometimes they're working, sometimes they're not. It's very difficult.
Well, regardless, it was a tough race for everybody, but you managed to come out well, Boris, and we'll undoubtedly speak to you coming out of the final round in some capacity. So enjoy the podium, and hopefully see you next week.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Boris Ovando, and finally Eric Fenson is going to be joining us here in third place. Another strong wet performance from the Australian.
Yeah, Eric, welcome in. Congratulations again. Great to be able to speak to you after yet another good performance. You do like the wet weather conditions in these LMP3s, don't you?
Yeah, I've always loved the rain in iRacing. Yeah, it's just I just come to it naturally, I guess.
Is there anything that you're able to extract from the car a little bit more? I mean, do you enjoy trying to find those extra lines around the outside? What is it about the wet weather racing that makes it so favourable for you?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I think I've just always, like from day one of rain, I was always fast. I think I just enjoy a bit of throttle control, a bit of patience.
Really do show some really good skill coming into the last week at the Red Bull Ring. Firstly, will you be here? Secondly, how much are you looking forward to having that as a season finale?
I should be in the booth. I don't know, but I should be at the race. And yeah, Red Bull Ring's pretty good. Just gotta watch the off tracks. But yeah, it should be fun in a downforce heavy car.
That's what we like to hear. So, Eric, congratulations on another podium. 2 podiums on the year for you, or on the season, I should say. Hopefully we'll see you again next week after the Red Bull Ring.
Hopefully. Thanks, guys.
Eric Fenson there, our P3 man in the LMP3s, and Reese, that pretty much just wraps us up. A bit of a mix of emotions from our drivers going into the final round. It's going to be a tight one either way, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, certainly. Both championships are still on the line in the LMP3s and the GT4s, and what a place to round off this season. The Red Bull Ring is going to play host to the final round. Long straights, heavy braking zones, a middle sector that is a bit more treacherous than it seems, and a final couple of corners which are going to undoubtedly cause a bit of drama between our classes.
Yeah, cannot wait for that. 7 days' time. What a season it has been. Join us on RaceSpotTV. Myself, Dareth Acker, and Reese Gardner will be there. We thank Hugo Luis up in the broadcast booth, making a beautiful broadcast for us this evening. We thank all of you at home for watching along as well. We hope you join us in 7 days' time and in the rest of the PRL action this week, tomorrow night, Thursday night, or Wednesday night as well. Sunday night will be our first season finale of the season. You want to watch all of them. We hope we see you in 7 days' time, but from us, for the time being, it's a goodbye.